Hi, everybody. I see Alexis Hill brought her own fan club. That is within the rules. However, I expect you to behave during the interview. Welcome back to IndyFest. We are very, very happy to have Alexis Hill here. She's the chairwoman of the Washoe County Commission, and she's a Democratic candidate for governor. She's also a native Nevadan. She worked in municipal government for about a decade before running in 2020 for the Washoe County Commission, re-elected in 2024, and she announced her gubernatorial candidacy earlier this year. Let's give her a warm IndyFest welcome. I'm once again joined by the incomparable Michelle Rindels, who is the Indy's co-editor. I want to make a note for people in the room and those watching. Some people are going to be wondering, why did you have Alexis Hill and why didn't you have the Attorney General? You're so unfair. I've never heard that before. Let me just say that we did invite the Attorney General. He agreed to come to IndyFest and then backed out. I will have more on that next week in a column on the Indy site. So, let me start it off. I'm going to let Michelle take the lead on most of this, Chairwoman Hill, but no one knows you down here. No one knows who you are. You're not going to be able to raise much money. The Democratic establishment isn't behind you. Are you nuts?
I just love this state, John, and I want better for this state. I want change. Voters want change. I have been talking to voters down here since I announced on September 5th every week. Actually, earlier this morning, I had a coffee with about 20 voters, and they're frustrated, and they see that quality of life has gone down in Nevada, and they believe that they need a leader who's fighting for them. And so I am crazy in love with this state and want it to be better. I continue to wait for leadership to see how we can invest in our communities, and it's not there. And so I'm running for governor because I believe Nevada needs change.
So I'm going to let Michelle jump in a second, but I just want to follow up and say, so you're reelected to the Washoe County Commission just last year, and you told your constituents you were going to be there, you're going to serve another term, but you're not going to really serve another term if all goes well for you. When did you make up your mind to do this, to say that, you know what, yeah, you're running at midterm, it's kind of a free role for you in some ways, but in other ways you're saying to your constituents, I think this is more important, right? I mean, that's the decision you came to. When did you come to that decision?
I don't think I'm telling my constituents that this role is more important than them. I think I'm telling my constituents that I'm fighting for them because I'm limited in what I can do as a county commissioner. And the state is a constant barrier in making sure that I can take care of my community. And we need someone who understands local government on the state level. I hear from so many legislators who started in the legislature and then moved to county commission, and they say, I wish I would have started on the county level. I would have been a better legislator, because they can see the picture in a totally different way. And so, you know, I woke up after the election, like many of us, and saw that I had won, which was incredible. I had won by 15 points with fewer voters than my first election. And I think it shows that my district is very happy with the work that I've been doing for them. But then I saw Trump win, and I just got so angry because I feel like Nevada has been a piece of Trump's success, because we gave away huge giveaways to Elon Musk when we were going through the depth of the recession. And then he went and sold those tax credits, and he bought the White House. And I believe that Nevadans deserve someone who's going to fight for them. I don't think that we have to cave to Trump or we have to cave to corporations and billionaires. I think we can actually invest in Nevadans. And I'm looking for that leadership, and I'm not seeing that. And I decided, why not run? In the same way when I decided to run for county commission and everyone said, who is this gal who works at the city of Reno running for county commission against a two-time incumbent, flipping a Republican seat? And I won that seat by 10 points by talking to the voters. So that's why I decided to run.
Are you dissatisfied with what you're seeing from your opponent, Aaron Ford's campaign?
I think that Nevadans deserve someone who is showing up for work every day, committed, and digging into the work. And I want someone who's running for governor to have an economic message that is talking about the real issues. We know that we are a low-tax state. I'm not trying to change that. But I think we need to invest in Nevadans. And 1990 was the last time our revenues kept up with our inflation. We are 3 times the population, and we are investing less per capita, and you can see it. You can see it on the ground. People are struggling. Nevadans don't need a handout. They actually are the hardest working people, I'm sure you would agree, that you've ever met. Most Nevadans I talk to have several jobs, they're involved in their communities, but they need opportunities to succeed. They need the government to actually invest in basic services to make sure that they are successful. And that's why I am running. I want to see that.
You have put at the forefront of your campaign an issue that the Indy has written a good amount about, but has been really unable to clear any even basic hurdles, and that is property taxes, to try to meet the goals of the State Commission on School Funding, but it would involve messing with people's property tax caps. Why touch that issue when it has not been able to get anywhere in the past at least decade that we've been monitoring it?
I'm not looking to mess with property tax caps, so I want to be very clear. And to everyone in the audience, unless you are a billionaire, I'm not looking to change what you are paying today in taxes. I'm not looking to change what you are contributing. I'm actually asking for people to pay their fair share. I'm asking for property tax to reset upon sale. This is something that most other states do, and we are leaving money on the table, and because of it, hedge funds are able to invest in properties, not just in Las Vegas, I know that it's a problem here, but also in my district, in Lake Tahoe. And we are making it so very wealthy people are taking advantage of our current outdated tax system and taking advantage of everyday Nevadans, and we need someone to fight for them. And so that's my hedge fund tax proposal.
How are you going to get around the fact that people don't want to even do this depreciation modification that you're proposing?
The people being legislators?
Yeah.
I think that if you are honest with voters and tell them what you are running on and why you are running, then they will elect you. That's why I ran in 2020. We had a huge homelessness problem. No one wanted to touch it with a 10-foot pole. And I told the voters the county needs to take the continuum of care and actually invest in this issue. And we have been a national model for that. And so running on these proposals, concrete proposals, telling people, I don't just want to admire the problem. I actually want to pay for and fix the problem, and here's how I'm going to do it. Yes, it's going to take compromise. Yes, it's going to take a lot of discussion, but I think that people pay attention to elections. So if the voters want to see a change, then I think that elected officials will be excited to tackle those new problems. We need leadership in that space, and no one is speaking up and talking about these issues, although we know they're problems. And talking to voters, yesterday I saw a teacher. She has a kindergarten class with 30 kids, no teacher's aide. She doesn't have time even for a prep period. I asked her, I said, how do you do this? This is so hard on you. And she said, I pray. And I said, don't you deserve more than prayers? Don't you deserve someone fighting for you? And so this is what's on the line. It's being a county commissioner, I see the human toll of the decisions and the lack of decision making that has been happening for decades in this state. And I want to speak out for people.
Let me just jump in here real quickly, Michelle. You know, I have talked to a lot of local government people over the years, and they always say the same thing to me. They go to these conferences around the country, and they're told by their, there's no depreciation there. You don't reset. This happens a lot of other places. There's a lot of money that could be made. I mean, this has come up in the legislature once or twice, right? And it's never gone anywhere. Give me your elevator pitch on this, and without any rhetoric, but substantively, how would this work for an average person?
Well, if you decide to sell your home, or if you're coming from another community to Nevada, you should not benefit from the depreciation that someone who has been living in that home for 30 years has enjoyed. I don't have a problem necessarily with depreciation. I don't have a problem with the tax cap of 3%. I think that's fine. I want to keep people housed. I do think, though, the home should reset on the assessed value, because you're going to put it in your mortgage, you probably won't notice it, and I'll tell you, I talked to so many voters. I had a fundraiser on Wednesday night, and there were many people from out of town at that fundraiser, and they were like, I came to Nevada and I had no idea how low the property taxes would be. I was prepared to pay $6,000 a year. I'm paying $2,000 a year. That feels wrong, and it is wrong. So
reset. If I buy a house for $100,000 and it's worth $300,000, you think that I should be paying property taxes on the higher amount?
Not you when you bought it. If you already bought it,
Right.
I'm not messing with you. So I just want to dispel any of these rumors. I'm not messing with you today.
Right. Okay. Tomorrow? No,
if you decide to sell and you decide to make a new investment, I think that's a perfectly reasonable policy. But here's the thing. This is what I wrote on my website. But by the way, that I've been told no one will read. Because voters don't care about the details, but I'll tell you, voters do care about the details. Otherwise, why would they show up for you? I've said, I want to look at all of these options. These are some of the thoughts that I've had from working in this space for decades, but I'm willing to compromise. I'm willing to work with the legislature. I understand that the governor isn't the queen, and that you actually need to have relationships and make sure that you can work together on these issues, but we have a major revenue problem in this state, and we need to deal with it. And right now, we're in special session, and we're ignoring that problem. We're actually putting it off till 2030, when we know we're going to run a deficit. So that's irresponsible. We've got to have a leader who speaks up on these issues, because we need investments. People are struggling, and I'm talking to those people every day.
You're a mom of a 3-year-old. Like me.
Yeah.
Has being a mom changed anything about the platform you developed and really the priorities that you are pursuing?
Absolutely. I mean, as a county commissioner, we were able to obtain American Recovery Act funds from the COVID pandemic, and we purchased 2 child care centers. One for our foster families, because we heard the major barrier for foster families is that they can't find childcare. We know we're in a childcare desert, and it's too expensive to begin with, and we give them so little in stipends to do that work. And we did one for our county employees. The push to do that was by me, because I couldn't find childcare when I had my daughter in 21. And so I know that it's a struggle for families, and it is a part of my platform as well as investing in childcare. I heard from a grandma today in a coffee I had with voters, and she said, I'm the full-time caregiver for my grandchild because my son cannot afford childcare. And so it's a burden on families as well. And so we have to make sure that we're looking at the whole family picture. And so I do think that, being a parent does play into that, and making sure that, you take care of everyone in the community and look at those pieces that maybe folks hadn't thought of before.
Universal Pre-K, another item that's on your website. Now the Ledge is in session right now. They're talking about a pre-K plan that goes along with the film tax credits, $16 million a year, something like that. What are your thoughts on that proposal?
Well, I am not a fan of the film tax credits. I think I've been very open about that. I do think it's a deal that we know it doesn't pencil. We've seen the studies. We've heard from other states that it does not work for them. And I don't know about you, but I am tired of getting the scraps of these deals. That's what I feel like we get. We beg for, can we please have these jobs, when we know they're not sustainable and we know that they won't last as long as they sell us on, instead of figuring out how we can sustainably invest in communities, and ensure that we have good paying jobs for the long run. That is what my plan is. But I do think that investing in childcare as a state is important. I also think investing in families who are caregivers is important. I have aging parents. I also, as you said, have a 3-year-old. We have so many people who are doing this caregiving without compensation. A mother last night has a disabled son, and she's struggling. She can never, barely leave the house because her job, full-time job, without relief, is taking care of her son and not getting any extra income. That is a burden on families, and Nevada could do better in that space.
How do you pay for universal pre-K? At this moment, the proposal on the table is something like a tax increment district that kind of provides the $16 million a year for it. But universal is a much bigger proposition.
Well, I do want to say I've never said universal. I said we are going to work on subsidizing childcare for families. I don't know if I told folks today, I'm honest, I don't know if we could pay for universal childcare. New Mexico did that, but that was, I think it was 6 years in the making for them to get that done. So realistically, we need to look at this, one piece at a time. My priority and what I've been very clear about is that we need to get in the median in investments of per child investments in K through 12. We're at 48th, ranked 48th in our investments in K through 12. We need to do better. We know that's about $2 billion a year, and I do think my plan can pay for that.
I've covered politics for way too long, and I hear the word invest at least 3 times now from you, and you know what that means to most people. Taxing. You want to raise taxes. You think we need to raise taxes. Is that right?
I, again, want to be clear. If you're a billionaire, you should be scared. If you're not, you shouldn't be worried, because I have 3 tax proposals on the table. We have a Bezos tax, so we're going to tax commercial EV vehicles, those Amazon vehicles that are driving on our roads and not paying their fair share. I have an Elon tax. We can tax the very wealthy, and I have a hedge fund tax to make sure that our homes are not being bought up by hedge funds, so that the rest of us can actually buy a single family home. That's really the Nevada dream. In Nevada, when I was a kid, you could have a 2-income household, work in the casino, and buy a home. That is not possible anymore. We need to do better for our families.
So, but I mean, this kind of tax the rich ethos that you're proposing, do you not like capitalism? These are successful people. Why shouldn't they be allowed to keep their money?
I don't have a problem with capitalism. I just believe that everyone should pay their fair share. In Nevada, we have given too many loopholes to the very wealthy, so much so that we're trying to give them our tax dollars, not even tax them. We're trying to give away our tax dollars to the wealthy. That is wrong. And I'm talking to voters, they're pissed about it. They're not okay with this. They want better. They want someone to stand up for them. So I am not looking to tax anyone in this audience. I am looking to tax people who are taking advantage of Nevada, who will come here anyway, because it is such a great place. We know that.
Are you sure there are no billionaires in this audience?
I mean, I guess I don't. I don't know. You're right.
You've been pretty critical not only of this special session, but just other deals with the tax credits over the years. What do you say about the Allegiant deal, though? I mean, do you think that is penciled out here almost 10 years after that was approved?
Right. I think that here's what I've been clear about. I disagree with giving away our hard-earned tax dollars to billionaires and corporations. I don't want to look in the rearview mirror and say, I think that this was a wrong move by this leadership. I don't agree with it, but was that at the time what they thought they should do? Fine. But the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. We're still in the same problem where we don't have a diversified economy. So it didn't change that, and we are hitting a great, potentially another, I hope not, but potentially another great recession. And Nevada, as we know, we're not going to fare as well as the rest of the United States, because the way that you pull yourself out of these difficult economic times is by investing in infrastructure. I'm proposing a Nevada New Deal because we are going to need those jobs. They're sustainable, good jobs, the same kind of jobs that are being fought for with this film tax.
Is it correct to say you're okay with tax credits as maybe an economic development tool, but you want it in other industries or something besides film, something besides stadiums?
I think we need to look at the Governor's Office of Economic Development very carefully. I think that we need to look at how we invest in small businesses. We are one of the few states that have an economic development office for the state that do not invest in small businesses. We invest in these large companies. And I do think it's wrong that we have statutory requirements for bringing in new companies. So it's written in law that you must give these incentives. That's crazy. We're giving tax incentives to data centers. We need to make a change. So I do think we need to reevaluate how we do these things. I am open to having the dialogue with new industries, certainly, but I want to also make sure that Nevada has modernized our tax system, which we still need to do. That is going to be a huge part of that piece. And if we do that, you're also going to see those kind of investments and the job making. We did WC1 in Washoe County. That was a school bond initiative that the voters overwhelmingly approved. And we are investing $1 billion in new schools in our inner city. And it's getting kids to come back to school because they're in these beautiful modern new buildings, and it's creating jobs, and it is creating community pride. It's a win all around, and we are in a good situation because we are investing in ourselves. I'd like Nevada to do that for a change. That is what I am offering.
You have a proposal to freeze the rent, which is pretty radical, and also similar things didn't go anywhere in the session. How do you do that without running into the concern that was brought up a lot? Mm-hmm. People disinvesting in their rental properties and becoming slumlords knowing they can't raise their rent.
I am suggesting in this economic time to freeze the rent for 18 months. I do think that we are in a point where we need to stabilize people in their housing. I work at a county where we get to see the human toll of decisions where we have homeless seniors in northern Nevada, and I know we have them in southern Nevada because rents are being increased dramatically and people are getting kicked out of their homes. Half of our homeless shelter are people over the age of 55. So I think it shows that we need to protect these folks and keep them in their housing. I do think we need to look at a cap on rents. We have a cap on mortgages. So for me, I have a 3% cap. I know how much I'm going to be paying every year when I'm paying my property tax, or I can estimate it. It is not fair to people who are renting that they don't have that same right, and that is what I am proposing.
You've never had your mortgage go up? You're lucky. You're one of the lucky ones.
I have a depreciating property, 1948 house.
I guess what I'm wondering is that, but I mean, that's only one side of the equation, right? And rent control, rent freezes, whether temporary or permanent, they're very popular with people. Why wouldn't they be, right? But there's another side to that, isn't there? There are people who own these buildings. There are landlords. There are people who actually, they have families too, and they have businesses that employ people. You're going to be hurting them potentially by freezing rents, aren't you?
I think that we can certainly have that discussion. I think we're hurting people when we're kicking them out on the street.
No,
And
I'm not even suggesting you're wrong about that, of course, and there is a housing crisis in Nevada, no doubt about it. I'm just suggesting that just to say you're going to freeze rent, that could have implications, right, for some of these businesses.
it certainly can, and we can look at creative legislation on how we support small businesses as well. I think, to your point, subsidizing, how should the government decide to subsidize certain things? Potentially, that's something we can look at for landlords. Again, all of these are proposals that I think would help with the circumstances that we're in today. And actually, I'm the only person running for governor who has any proposals, who has concrete plans, who's being honest with the voters about the real problems on the ground. But I understand that these are negotiations when you get to the legislative session. So right when you get elected as governor, you go into session. And so it's a great opportunity to work with the legislature and find ways to make people's lives better.
Governor Lombardo put money toward affordable housing and has talked a lot about public lands and turning those over. I didn't see a whole lot of mention of that on your website. Tell me, does turning over public lands figure into that plan? Is it a prominent part? Is it a minor part?
Well, I can speak for the Truckee Meadows Lands Bill, which I'm much more familiar with in Northern Nevada, and it's something that my board did support because it had disposal of land for development, which would essentially connect the city of Sparks to Story County, but it also had conservation, huge conservation easements. I think it was like a 3-to-1 conservation easements, as well as tribal land considerations, very thoughtfully done by Senator Rosen. That is, I think that we should look at those type of things because we know that counties are not receiving enough PILT money to fight wildfires, to manage public lands. It's a huge problem in all of our counties. And so looking at ways that we can potentially develop these lands, I'm open to, but I'm a big sustainability and conservationist, and so I think we have to really look at these carefully and make sure that we're doing the right mix of disposal to conservation pieces. But really, there's a lot of opportunity if there was enough funding to do infill workforce housing as well. Many local governments own properties throughout their communities, and at least for Washoe County, I'll tell you, we would be doing more workforce housing if we had the funding. And that's where it is so frustrating. We have done such an amazing job with our homelessness program, but we have nowhere to put folks. Once they're stabilized, ready for housing, we don't have enough vouchers and we don't have the housing to put them in. Additionally, we've even created a shallow subsidy, so just supplementing the rent to make sure we can get people into housing. We don't have enough money for that. That money is drying up. So we've got to figure this out, and we know it's less expensive to permanently house someone than to have them on our streets, in our jails, in our hospitals. So we need someone who actually wants to tackle that.
You talk to voters every day. Is a lands bill what we need the most, or is there another solution that you think needs to be happening, first 100 days?
Revenue is what we need the most in Nevada. We need revenues to invest in local communities. That is the #1 initiative. Lands bills are really tough to get through. I mean, we were so lucky with the work that Senator Reed was able to do with the lands bills that he put forward. And so I think that they take a lot of time, but we'll see. I don't know with this administration, who knows? But it's certainly, for me, I think that we need to raise revenues and invest in people first in that 100 days.
Raise revenues. You're saying that again,
Yeah, I know.
So you've talked about this taxing billionaires, corporations, hedge funds, the Elon tax, the Bezos tax. That all sounds great to a lot of people, but what are the details of that? How would it work?
How would those taxes work?
Yeah, well, I mean, you say you're going to tax corporations, hedge funds, billionaires. Tell me what the proposals are. You say we need revenue. to raise revenue, you're either going to have to do dramatic cuts in government, or you're going to have to do what you're suggesting, which is tax billionaires and hedge funds and corporations. Tell me the details.
Well,
Real solutions. I saw it on your video.
I know. Well, we talked about it. Depreciating property tax, that would bring in billions to the state of Nevada. Hedge fund tax, it's looking at how do we make it less desirable for people to invest in Nevada who do not live here and who are taking advantage of our renters, who are making the housing more expensive. So you could look at more than that 8.8% cap and increase that. Certainly the depreciation reset will help with that issue. You can put those revenues in an affordable housing trust fund. With the Bezos tax, you're looking at taxing EVs. So you either do a vehicle miles traveled or you do an annual fee. People are not paying their fair share. They need to. Those are heavy vehicles on our roadways. If you are looking at a Elon tax, you're looking at folks who are making millions and millions of dollars, and you're taxing them on capital gains tax. So those are the details.
You can't pass a capital gains tax in Nevada. What, are you going to pass a state income tax?
Well, only for the billionaires, but yes, that's one of the
proposals. An income tax for billionaires, like over a certain...
And that's all up to negotiation and a discussion, but yes, that's one of the proposals that I have.
What does the Alexis Hill climate plan look like?
Oh, yeah. I mean, at the county, we have done great work on reducing our carbon footprint, and I know that the Sisolak administration had a lot of goals that I think have probably gone by the wayside with this administration. I think that the great thing about investing in the climate, especially in Nevada, is that you can actually save a lot of money that way, and you can reduce people's electric bills. So that's what I would like to do, honestly, for me, because of the stark realities of where people are at in the state and the suffering that they are having. I want to look at quality of life issues first. That's a priority, but I certainly am going to be looking at the climate and sustainability. It's a belief I have, and we come here. My campaign video talks about it's a beautiful place. How do we keep this place beautiful? It's by investing in smart climate change solutions. So fighting it on a local level, supporting local governments and doing that, and that's what I'll be doing as well.
Do you have any goals related to fossil fuels or promoting electric vehicles or reducing natural gas use?
I mean, all of the above, but I don't have like a detailed plan on that. I've really been focusing on pulling people out of poverty, because that is the priority in Nevada, because of the suffering that I'm seeing on the ground talking to voters. It's painful to hear their stories, and we need to support working families.
Can I bring up the film tax credit again, since
Sure.
it's being considered even as we're sitting here up in Carson City? The argument, playing devil's advocate here, by the way, I've written tons of columns in the past about these tax giveaways and how they divert revenue from needed programs, including back when the Tesla got its deal, the Allegiant Stadium deal. Friends of mine still want me to write columns saying I was wrong, but I still think Allegiant Stadium would have been very successful without having to do the giveaways. The argument, though, on the other side of that is, number one, that it helps diversify the economy, gets us a lot more jobs, but that it also, Nevada's different. We need to do something different. We need to create another sector of the economy, like Hollywood East or a Silicon Valley type thing with Tesla and others up north. That's the argument, that is going to produce the kind of revenue that Alexis Hill wants for state government. That's the argument. You've probably heard this argument. You don't buy it at all?
Well, has it done that? I'm telling you, in northern Nevada, for example, the TRIC facility, yes, it has helped with some diversification, but we cannot pay for basic services still. in my community. We cannot.
Maybe it's mismanagement by the local government.
There you go. That's what we love to say. That's what we love to say. But I welcome you to look at our books at Washoe County.
That was too easy. Come on, you walked into that one.
Yes, I will tell you. So we know that the I-80 corridor is incredibly unsafe. People who have to go to work at the Gigafactory are waiting in traffic for sometimes over 2 hours. They cannot obtain childcare. If they write that they work at the Tahoe Regional Industrial Center on their paperwork, they will not be able to even get that childcare placement because they'll get there to pick up the kid too late. They're on Medicaid. Tesla's one of the highest Medicaid recipients in the state. And so they're not even paying their people enough. I have many constituents who work at the Gigafactory who are struggling. And we wanted to relieve the traffic on I-80, make it a little easier for them to get to work. I'm the chair of the Regional Transportation Commission and had a discussion on how will we do this. Well, a north road, building a new road is going to be incredibly expensive. So we went to the legislature and asked for a toll road. Not ideal. I mean, looking at charging the people who are on Medicaid, who can't get child care, who can barely afford to live in our communities, asking them to pay for a road. These are the decisions you have to make all the time as an elected official in Nevada. And we could not even get approval for that toll road. We're looking at some other creative solutions. We're also looking at rail potentially with UP. But we cannot pay for these major developments and the consequences of these major developments because our tax code is so outdated. We have got to modernize it. And so it is a root problem that we need to fix before we get into the fun stuff. And honestly, when you fix the root problem, you create sustainable jobs. And that is my proposal.
The other argument is that if you're going to be in the tax incentive game, if you think that you need to give some incentives for some other companies to come and do business here, whether it's Hollywood Studios or Tesla or anyone else, that you got to be in the game. You can't, if you're not in the game, then we'll never be able to get any of these businesses to come here. It's so hyper competitive. There were thoughts and rumors that Tesla might go elsewhere right before they decided to come here because they liked the deal that we gave them better than Arizona and other places. Do you suggest that we just get out of the tax incentive business?
I am suggesting that until we can pay for basic services, we need to restructure the Governor's Office of Economic Development. And I'd like to see, yes, I'm okay with tax incentives for small businesses. I think we can support a homegrown film industry in Nevada. We have a lot of great film makers and artists and performers that would love direct support. Why don't we do that? I think that there are ways to support it. I think that this either-or dichotomy of we must give our money to billionaires and corporations or Nevada is going to be in trouble is wrong and really cynical. I think it's cynical because why don't we try to invest in Nevadans for a change? We actually did do that, like I said, until about 1990. And so I think that we know that quality of life is not as, hearing from voters, they're not happy. Let's just be real. And they want to change, and that's what my proposals are.
So those poor Nevada residents, Jeremy Renner and Mark Wahlberg, are going to be hit by your rich people's tax, and they're not going to get their film tax. I don't think you're going to get their vote.
Oh, well, actually, well, I don't know. We'll see. I haven't called them, but I do plan on calling. I've been calling a lot of voters, texting voters, meeting voters where they're at. But Jeremy Renner has done a lot of investment in our foster care system.
It's got a foundation up there that he.
It's been amazing the work that he's done. He's even looking to permanently house kids who are aging out of foster care, but. So it's wonderful that he is supporting that, but also wouldn't it be great if the government had a program to support that as well? I mean, how we treat kids who don't have families, I think really shows what kind of people we are, what kind of government we are. We should do better in Nevada, I'll tell you, because I'm seeing it on the ground every day, how we support these kids.
We had the legislature create this commission on school funding, told them to come up with some targets and goals and ideas for raising revenue. They came up with a report.
Yes.
They're recommending property tax
Yes.
changes and maybe a sales tax change. How seriously do you take the work of that panel?
I think the work that they've done has been incredible. And I think that what's so great is that they didn't stop at, okay, we're going to do per pupil funding. They said, okay, we're going to do some tweaks and continue to look at this issue. And they know that investments need to be made because our major school districts are running deficits in Clark County, as we know that they are laying off teachers, and we don't have a sustainable way of supporting our schools. In Washoe County, they're projecting major deficits in the school district. So yes, I think that it's great that the report was great because it helped me discuss how I would like to move it forward. I heard a really great analogy about, does Nevada want to buy the Ferrari, or do we want the paper Ferrari poster in our garage? And do we want to invest in the schools and actually do it right, or do we want to just admire what we could have? And they actually have put pen to paper and have said, this is how we stop admiring the problem and we actually invest in it. Because I don't know about you, I'm sick and tired of politicians telling me that they care about investing in schools and they do nothing.
Is that your goal? They want to get up to the national average, and that's that billions more.
That's that $2 billion.
Year.
I'm not asking for gold-plated schools here. This is the median average. We're not talking to be at the very top. I think our students deserve that, but this is about half that. So it's that $2 billion investment.
You've been doing some interesting things on your campaign, your daughter is featured in some of your videos, and you've hopped on the the alternate special session train. So are there any models that you're looking at nationally or in the state, Democrats that are doing a good job with their campaigns and exciting voters?
That's a great question. I am not on social media a lot, to be perfectly honest. I know that it's very important to engage community members and get attention for the campaign, especially with a grassroots campaign that I am running. And so we're trying it all. I want to make sure people know who I am, what I believe in, and I do think that leadership on just the idea of a special session for the rest of us, where I wrote proposals of what I would have done as a leader for the special session, I think that shows leadership. I think anyone being silent about what we should be doing in Nevada, or even what they think about the special session, that's not leadership. And I think people want to see that type of leadership. And I'll tell you, people want change. They are about as fed up as I am, and I'm pretty fed up about the status quo and the good old boys club. It's time for a change in Nevada.
You know, a Ferrari in every garage is a pretty good slogan. Have you thought about that?
Yeah, that's my promise.
So we only have about a minute left, and so I just want to circle back to where we started, which is when I first heard about the notion that you were going to run for governor, it was from people who you would talk to, and their initial reaction was, I didn't think she was serious, but then I sat down with her, and she really is thinking about doing this. This is well after Ford was in the race and all the rest of it. And you seem from this interview, to be honest with you, to be very serious about this. You have some ideas, but you know what an uphill battle this is. You do. You understood that going in. Are you really in this no matter what? When it comes to the first week in March, or second week in March, you're gonna actually file, or are you just doing this and seeing if the money rains down? Not from the billionaires, I'd guess, but if it rains down from somewhere.
Right. I am committed to this campaign because I think Nevadans deserve a choice, and I think that they deserve a candidate who is listening to them and who wants to make a change and who is brave enough to point out a giant elephant in the room. And to me, this campaign is so important because I'll still be a county commissioner, just running my county while I'm doing this, and knowing that potentially we could invest in local communities and play out a vision that I see for the state. It's exciting for me and inspirational for me. And right now, more than anything, people need hope. Like, I'll tell you, people want to get up in the morning and they want to be excited about where they live. They want to believe that leaders who they've elected are fighting for them. And at an event last night, numerous people said, please tell me you're not going to be a politician who comes in here into our communities and makes promises and then we never see them again. And that is, I think, the status quo right now. And I am not that type of politician. I'm not doing this for fame and glory. Bringing up the social media posts, it's sometimes uncomfortable for me to be that revealing, certainly, but I'm doing it because I love this place, and Nevadans deserve a change.
Alexis Hill, we really appreciate your coming down from Reno to come to IndyFest. It's been a real pleasure doing the interview. Michelle, thanks for all those great questions. Let's give Alexis Hill a round of applause.